Thank you, Commissioner Cameron. Those are definitely some important projects that are at the top of our list. I want to change tact a little bit and talk about some other things we're working on. The other day, I was at the Songbird House, and I got to meet a new mother who had just moved in. Her son was 21 days old and had just been released from the NICU. He was beautiful, and I remember how his little hand wrapped around my finger. His mom told me how grateful she was to be able to be at the Songbird House. She had been homeless and struggling with addiction. DHS wouldn't have allowed her to take her baby back to the outdoor shelter she was living in at the time out of fear that he wouldn't have survived in that environment, and she had nowhere else to go. But there in that moment, she seemed so relaxed, and her baby was so peaceful in her arms. It made me so happy. We had used some of our federal funding to help Soaring Heights, the nonprofit that runs the house, so they could purchase it and have a safe place for moms in recovery to live. I looked at that child and I thought of all the hope and potential that exists in that little human. I also thought how wonderful this community is for loving and supporting him and his mother. The folks at the hospital for taking care of them. Eric and Veronica at Soaring Heights for giving them a home. Our drug and alcohol team at Marion County for providing treatment to his mom. Drug addiction is a horrible, horrible thing. And those criminal organizations that are producing and trafficking this poison into our community are evil organizations. But how we respond to this crisis, how we help people who are suffering from addiction and their children, says something about who we are and what our values are. One of the amazing things that I've learned as a commissioner is that for some people, the love they have for their children is more powerful than the most powerful street drugs. It can be easy when we see all the suffering around us to think that things will never get better, that addicts can't overcome their addiction, but I know that that's not true. And I know that because I now work with many people at Marion County who will confidently tell you that they're an addict. And they confidently tell you this because they know that the lies they used to tell themselves about their addiction are what led them to the worst moments of their lives. And they know that the truth is what brings them redemption, peace, and joy, not just to their lives, but to our whole community. This came to me early as my time as a commissioner when I was visiting her place, which many of you know about. This is the original home that has inspired homes like the Songbird House. It's run by the county for moms who are in danger of losing their children to DHS because of their addiction. Instead, they can stay in this house and have a supervised home while they go through treatment. I remember being impressed at how successful this program's been. It's been around for over 20 years. And so when Peter Davidson, the CFO of Pacific Source, our local CCO, called me several years ago and told me that the state had allowed Pacific Source to invest some of their reserves in real estate, and he was looking for opportunities that had a treatment component, I told him that our team had been hoping to have a house for dads in the same situation. And true to his word, he and Pacific Source helped fund the purchase of his place, which has allowed dads to be with their kids in treatment. And while all this work says something important about our values here in Marion County, it also says something important about the values of those evil organizations that are bringing this poison into our community. That's the reason why today I'm calling for a joint Salem and Marion County drug team to investigate those drug dealers who are specifically targeting individuals in our homeless community. There are people right now, today, who are bringing drugs into our community and specifically targeting the people on our streets. We can't stand by and do nothing while crime bosses get rich, targeting the most vulnerable people in our community. We must act, and we must act now. Doing nothing is not an option. And while picking up the pieces and helping people on the road to recovery is important work, it's past time that we made it clear that if you're selling drugs to homeless people in our community, we will find you and we will put you in jail. One of the saddest things that we're now dealing with is the rise of substance abuse and crime among the youth in our community. We've seen a significant increase in serious crimes being committed by juveniles in Marion County. Part of this stems from the failed experiment we just went through with Measure 110, which legalized drugs, and that law caused 4 years of damage to our community, and our youth didn't come out unscathed. But I was also relieved to see that recently the governor fired the director of the Oregon Youth Authority. Based on the articles, it appears that the leadership at Oregon Youth Authority failed in many different ways. But one of the ways that we've seen here in Marion County is that they have failed, horribly failed, to appropriately supervise individuals who were known to be dangerous and in their care. Between 2021 and 2023, 11 juveniles shot somebody in our community in either a murder or an attempted murder. 6 of these kids, over half of them, were under OIA supervision at the time that they committed those crimes. This is similar to the failure of the state hospital. The state of Oregon released these individuals back into our community, even though they were known to be dangerous. And while they were under OIA supervision, they went out and shot people. We need reform at the Oregon Youth Authority, and we need it now. One of the things that we can do locally here to help our youth is to bring school resource officers back to the Salem-Keizer School District. Several years ago, during the failed defund the police movement, there were some activists who convinced the Salem-Keizer School Board that school resource officers were not helping victims of child abuse. They weren't helping victims of crime, but they were actually making things worse. Although this wasn't true, the argument convinced the majority of the school board back then to get rid of these officers. As a result, kids feel less safe in our schools nowadays, and many of them are not thriving. This is a disservice to our kids, and we need to bring these officers back as soon as possible. But our schools need more than this. The Urban Institute recently found that adjusted for demographics, Oregon's performance in the National Assessment of Educational Progress put our students dead last nationwide in 4th grade reading and math. I want that to sink in for everyone here. The kids in Oregon schools are not just struggling, they're not just in trouble, they're performing the worst in the nation in 4th grade reading and math. And to be clear, that's basic literacy and basic arithmetic. That's what 4th grade reading and math are. None of our statewide leaders are treating this with the urgency that it deserves. This is a full-blown crisis for the future of our state. And it's not a funding crisis. Over the past decade, school spending has nearly doubled, yet our kids' performances have plummeted during the same time. I know that as commissioners, we're not in charge of our schools, but we can and must rally our community to help solve this problem. One of the small things we recently did was provide a $30,000 grant from our Economic Development Fund to partner with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, their Early Learning Hub, and local Rotary clubs so that every child can have a free book sent to them every month to read with their parents from the time they're born until they turn 5 years old. I remember being a little kid, I loved it when my mom or dad read to me, and it's one of my happiest things as a father is reading to my kids. I can't think of a thing that I'm more proud of than making this experience available to our kids in our community. And by allowing parents to choose and participate in the education of their children, I believe that's just one step on the path that will get us out of this crisis. And I can't think of a better cause. Kids are the one group of people that don't have lobbyists, they don't have political action committees, they don't have special interest groups. So when a community like ours comes together and we help kids who are struggling in our community, we tell the whole world what kind of people we are. Speaking of education, one of the conversations that's been swirling around the past several years is how to fund public services in our community. And there's an idea that tax increases could be a solution to this problem. But I've realized that the best way for our communities to increase the revenues that support public services is not to raise taxes, but rather to support the growth and development of local businesses in our communities. Because when local businesses grow, they develop property, which leads to increased revenues for our local governments without any tax rate increases. We've seen this happen in communities across Marion County. And it also has the benefit of protecting folks who are on fixed income so they're not taxed out of their homes. So this last year, the Board of Commissioners commissioned a study to study the property taxes paid by businesses in our community, and we put together a video on that study. I'd like to share that video with you now.
You might think you know how public services like education, infrastructure, and emergency management get funded. Your tax dollars, right? Well, not entirely. There's another contributor who is often overlooked. Local businesses play a crucial role in creating jobs and paying salaries, but many people don't realize that they also make a significant contribution to vital public services in our community through property taxes. Unlike residents who pay taxes primarily based on their home value, businesses pay based on the value of their business property, including warehouses, machinery, and equipment. In Marion County, businesses shoulder just over 27% of the total property tax burden, easing the load on individual households. This also means that when a business grows in our community by, say, building a new warehouse or purchasing new equipment, the value of its property increases, and so the amount of tax revenue the business contributes increases as well. This translates to millions of dollars annually. Here in our community, local businesses pay $37.6 million just to our local school districts every year. This pays the salaries of 553 teachers in Salem-Keizer schools. Local businesses provide $23.24 million in revenue to Marion County every year. This pays for 272 sheriff's deputies and $7.4 million in property taxes paid by local businesses to local fire districts is enough to hire 37 firefighters. That's not all. The revenues generated by local businesses also help to create and preserve important public spaces like parks and libraries. Every time you call the fire department, send your child to school, or are protected by a sheriff's deputy, you're benefiting from the support businesses provide to our community through property taxes. In fact, without this crucial contribution from local businesses, each household would see their property taxes increase by as much as $2,000 per year. Instead, local businesses help keep taxes lower for Marion County residents. So, the next time you see a local business thriving, remember, they're not just serving customers. They're supporting our community in more ways than one, helping to keep Marion County a vibrant place to live, work, and raise a family.
As you can see, when our local businesses grow and thrive, we all succeed. So in this time especially of economic uncertainty that we're all facing, I want to encourage all of us to stay true to what has worked so well for our community, sticking together and trusting each other. Let's reinvest in our families, churches, local businesses, and nonprofits. Let's support our law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders. It worked during the wildfires, it worked during COVID, it worked during the riots, and it continues to work today. Here in Marion County, when we stick together, we're strong. Thank you.